Introducing Paddy Power's Beat the Drop. We're giving every customer 30 days free entry and £1,000 up front. It's up to you to keep it. All you have to do is answer 10 questions correctly. Play now at beatthedrop.paddypower.com.
Hello there, a warm welcome to the Racing Post Football Postcast. This week the panel consists of me, Bruce Millington, and joining me in the studio, Joe Champion and Dan Childs. We've also got over in Ireland at Power Towers, Paddy Power's Emmett O'Keefe. We are looking ahead to a full weekend programme in the Premier League, as well as all the best bets that lurk lower down the divisions and elsewhere in Europe. So hopefully plenty of winners coming your way. Before that, we're not going to do the 6 questions this week. There's a couple of really interesting competitions that I want to have kind of a more in-depth chat about this week. I think the Champions League is really fascinating. We've had, 3 match weeks now. But the Championship as well, it's incredible. I think there's 16 teams within 8 points of top spot. So the lads have been busy sussing away, and hopefully there's some good anti-post value in what is a really, really fascinating division. We'll start with the Champions League though, and before the lads give us their latest thoughts, Emmett, take it away with a show of betting.
It's Man City favourites at 9-2, Barcelona 5-1, Juventus 11-2, Liverpool 8-1, Bayern Munich 9-1, PSG 9-1, Real Madrid 10-1, Atletico Madrid 12-1, and 25's bar.
So Dan, first of all, we've got a big 8 there in the betting.
Yeah.
Do you think that the winner will come from there, or do you think there's some value in looking at the outsiders?
Probably. The one outsider I'd mention, it's not just a knee-jerk reaction because they've started the season well, is Borussia Dortmund. A 4-0 win against Atletico Madrid, it's bound to catch the eye. I mean, scoring 4 goals against a team as defensively well organised as Atletico.
Was it just a freak, or did they fully deserve it? It's incredible.
I just feel that they've been a little bit overlooked already this season. I mean, they're top of the Bundesliga, scored 27 goals in 8 Bundesliga games at the moment, averaging more than 3 goals a game in there. And they've got a nice little gap to Bayern already in the Bundesliga. So I just think they're getting a little bit overlooked, really. And they're still, I'd look at the outright price, still 33-1 outright. And I just feel that outside of Man City and Barcelona, who are the 2 teams that I really fancy, if you get a bit of luck with a draw, I think the other teams, you're capable of getting past them in a 2-legged match. So they're obviously in a great position in the group now, got 9 points from 3 games, going to make it, to the last 16. I just think they're a bit of each-way value.
Joe, what do you think? Do you think that the teams dominating the market will dominate the competition as well?
I think sort of history dictates that is the case, and it probably will be that again, to be honest with you. But, trying to pick a winner out of that lot's not easy. I think Juve are the team that have impressed me quite a lot. We've talked about, Ronaldo, maybe he's on the decline a bit, but, he's still a superb goal scorer. And in a single game basis, he's such a dangerous player to have on your side. They first impressed me in the opener against Valencia, where he was sent off, and then they went on and won the game without him, which was very impressive against a Valencia team who they've got some good players. They haven't been playing that well this season.
Hard to beat.
Yeah, very much so.
They've drawn 8 of their 10 league games, apparently.
Yeah,
Valencia.
yeah, very much the draw specialist of La Liga. But, Juve for me they're kind of found in the market now. But I think with Ronaldo in their team, that was always going to be the case.
Was that a great performance by Juve or feeble Man United?
A mix of both. I think Juve went out and did the job, but United didn't offer much against them.
Where would they be without De Gea? I mean, that save, that is honestly one of the greatest saves I've ever seen the other night. It was just astonishing.
He's got a bit of flack over the last few months, hasn't he?
We didn't have a great World Cup, but,
But
so
yeah, he's a world-class goalkeeper, isn't he?
Incredible.
So,
incredible. So you go Juve, yeah?
I think so, yeah.
Emmett, who is your current fancy based on what we've seen so far?
I'd lean towards Juventus as well. I just think ultimately, especially with Bonucci returning this season, and obviously Ronaldo, and the fullback Cancelo looked excellent the other night as well. So I think they've made some shrewd additions as well as Ronaldo. And even Szczesny's had a reasonable start to the season, so he hasn't possibly been the liability that some would have thought he'd be. I'm very impressed with the manager, Allegri. Some of the fluidity they're playing against United was very impressive, even though United didn't offer as much resistance as I would have hoped.
You're a United fan, Emmett, aren't you? I am. Did that break your heart watching them, particularly first half? Scholesy was embarrassed, he said.
Yeah, just like sitting 40 yards from your own goal. Like even after Juventus had scored, they didn't really come out and press them at all. It was just the kind of tactics and approach you'd expect from like a Genoa or a Sassuolo or a lesser Italian side playing against Juventus rather than Man United at home.
And Lukaku's lost his way, hasn't he?
Yeah, he doesn't. I'm not sure he's fully fit, to be honest. He doesn't look as sprightly as he did last year. And I think, to be honest, I think they really should have tried giving Rashford at least some games up front this season and last, to be honest, as well.
Dan, who out of those front teams are you less confident about? You've said you like City, you've said you like Barca. Is there anyone in that who's dominating the top end of the market that you think, actually, I couldn't have them at any cost?
I'm actually going to take the opposite view. I just think out of the top three, the team that I'm least convinced by still are Juventus. I know they were great against United and played them off the park. I mean, you could also say the same for Chelsea for about an hour of the game, and you wouldn't bracket Chelsea as one of the top teams in Europe. I mean, until Man United equalised in that game, they were played off the park at Stamford Bridge. So I just think it's hard to judge teams against United at the moment because they're so poor. The team hasn't changed. We got Ronaldo as obviously the big addition. But the team hasn't changed a hell of a lot from last season, when they were a fair bit short. I mean, I remember the 2 legs against Spurs. They were actually lucky to come through that tie. So Barcelona, to me, still look a great side when they're at it. Won comfortably against Inter without Messi on Wednesday night. And Manchester City just keep improving all the time. Look great without De Bruyne now. He's back as well. For me, I'll be surprised if the winner doesn't come from those 2 teams.
OK. Joe, anyone you're pretty negative on there? What about Real? What do you make of them at the moment?
It's hard to know what to make of them at the moment, really, with potential manager change incoming soon. If they lose the Clasico, then he's out, if not before then.
Who's going to come in?
We're thinking Conte, aren't we? He's the man tipped for the job. That could change things, but I still think they've struggled to replace the goals that Ronaldo gave them. So, to me, Real are probably not a bet. They were a similar price this time last season after starting poorly in the Champions League. So, I'd want to take them on, but then they have drifted a bit.
And who would you be looking to oppose out those front 8, Emmett?
Definitely Real Madrid at the moment. Obviously, things could change when there's a change of manager, but I was shocked how many chances they give up to Victoria Pilsen. Pilsen scored 1 and could easily have scored 2 or 3. And they just their level. I've been just shocked how bad they've been this season, to be honest.
Yeah, not good at all. Anything happening in the group market or the top scorer, Dan, that you think there might be a bit of value?
I've not had a massive look at the prices. I mean, as regards the English teams sort of getting through, I think Liverpool are looking in a tough group in a quite strong position now, simply because the other teams keep taking points off of each other. You got I think the draw suited them between Napoli, PSG this week. Napoli have already drawn against Red Star Belgrade as well, so I think they're in a nice position. Spurs are obviously massively up against it. Really needing to win all 3 games. They're probably going to have to win at the Camp Nou, so they're struggling. I think United might be all right. Their result, as the best result for them this week, was Valencia dropping points against Young Boys, so that's put them in quite a good position in their group as well.
OK, and top scorer. What's the latest betting top scorer, Emmett, please?
We've got Messi favourite at 11-8, Neymar 10-1, Lewandowski 12-1, Dybala 12-1, Aguero 14-1, Dzeko 14-1, and 16's bar.
Better talk about PSG as well, Joe, haven't we?
Yeah, they're not going very well, are they? For me, they haven't been impressive really in Europe at all over the last few years, and they've changed their manager in an attempt to solve that. But Tuchel's not got a great record really in European competition for the last couple of seasons. So, they're not a team that I'm looking to side with. I'd actually look to oppose them in the group markets if possible with Napoli, because they could go to Naples and lose. That's a distinct possibility, I think. As
top scorer fancy?
It's hard to look past Messi. If you fancy Barcelona, I'd maybe throw a few quid each way at Dybala.
OK, jolly good. And what about you, Emma? Anything else for you, either groups, top scorer, before we wrap up on the Champions League?
If I was looking at the top scorer, I'd look at Ronaldo at 16-1. Just that he's like, say, last season in the Spanish league, he scored very few goals before Christmas, but then went on an absolute tear after Christmas, and he's just capable of going on one of these amazing runs, and he could make the 16-1 look silly if he does.
Sure. The only thing I would say about Juventus, lovely side, fantastic the other day, but that Juve kit is, I think Juve's kit is the most iconic kit in football, but those stripes this year, they're not doing it for me at all. It's very disappointing. Let's look at the Championship then, because while most eyes have been on the Premier League obviously this season, a really fascinating competition is brewing in the tier below, to the extent that we've now got 16 teams within 8 points of top spot. So it's really, really wide open. If you go right down to to 16th place, you've got Aston Villa, who are probably, not the market leaders, but right up there. Even Stoke in 17th place. They're only 9 points off it. So a lot can happen. This is normally the time of year when one or two teams start to break away and assert themselves. Before the lads give us their idea of who they think will be the team that ends up dominating the division, Emmett, give us a latest show from Paddy Power in the Championship.
It's West Brom favoured 3-1, Leeds 9-2, Middlesbrough 5-1, Sheffield United 6-1, Derby 10-1, Nottingham Forest 16-1, Norwich 16-1, and 20's Bar.
Now, Emmett, we'll start with you. Given how wide open the division is, that betting is quite lopsided, isn't it, towards the teams at the top?
Absolutely, yeah. And considering West Brom's result against Derby as well during the week, it's be hard to be confident in taking the 3-1 about them.
It certainly would. If you were open, have you already backed someone? Did you back someone before the start?
Probably Stoke were my biggest bet before the season, but they've obviously been very poor this year, but are still only 7 points back, I think, of the 9 points back in Leeds.
But I mean, that's doable, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
If you were 9 points back in fourth, you'd think you're in great shape, wouldn't you? So,
Exactly.
So who would you be backing now, Emmett, if we had a chance to go in again?
I think the one thing of the top teams that you could really count on is Middlesbrough's defence. They've only conceded 7 goals in the first 14 games. That's 4 better than any other team. I think that will continue throughout the season. Flint and Ayala will be a big threat from set pieces. I just don't see Middlesbrough being knocked out of the frame. So them third favourites at 5-1 would be the way I'd go.
Okay, Joe, what are your thoughts on the Championship?
I think there's still more to come from this Derby team. They weren't that impressive when Lampard took over at the start of the season, but they're steadily getting better and better. The 2 young loanees, Wilson and Mount, are settling in really well, and Jack Marriott's starting to score goals as well. So, I'd definitely side with Derby at sort of a double figure, sort of around 10-1 mark, because, I still think there is plenty to come from them. West Brom, I can't have at the prices. I mean, they were beaten 4-1 at home last night. If they play like that even half the time, then they're going to struggle to be up there come the end of the season.
They're sure, aren't they? Now then, Dan, what do you think? You're our Championship expert, aren't you? So, are you licking your lips at this?
I agree with what everything that Joe said there about Derby. I think they're at 10-1. They're only 2 points off the top now. That was a real statement win, I thought. They've had 2 statement wins, haven't they? They beat Sheffield United, who were top of the league, going into the weekend. Won that game 2-1, played really well second half, and then to go win 4-1 at West Brom. Another fantastic result, and I just think that made a lot of changes in the summer, brought a lot of new players in. Some of them are only just starting to settle. Marriott, who got their first goal last night, has come up from League One, took a while to settle, but he's part of a team that's got a lot of goal threats. You've got Nugent, who's experienced and gets goals at that level. You've got Wilson, who's, as Joe's mentioned, on loan from Liverpool, who's getting better all the time. There's Waghorn as well. There's lots of goal threats in the team, but I really like the squad. I think the manager, I think Lampard, sometimes managers, you say, oh, let's see how they go. I always thought he would make a good manager. As a player, he worked so hard to get to the level he did. It wasn't all about ability, it was and that's important as a manager as well. He's not gone in, I don't think, with a prima donna attitude. I think he's working hard and he's delivering.
The players would absolutely look up to Frank
Lampard.
They would
look up to him.
They would have idolised him.
And they would also then, when he comes into the club and see the way he works and how meticulous he is, they would take to him even more. I think the other team is Leeds, who are top of the league actually at the moment, obviously in a tight league. But I've been impressed with them all season. Bielsa. There's not been many changes to the squad. I mean, people sometimes say, oh, how much difference can a manager make? Well, Leeds have gone from mid-table, playing some pretty desperate football, to playing some fantastic football, high press, passing football, and they're dominating pretty much every game they play. The shot count against Ipswich was 18-3 in the week when they won 2-0. They're doing that in most games, and they just lack a centre forward. Got Bamford in the summer, who got injured. If they get a centre forward in January, all this good play, I think, is going to deliver a lot of goals. The market is taking up too much of it. I think West Brom are taking up way too much of the market. Everyone focuses on Gale and Rodriguez. The rest of the team isn't that great. And I think Middlesbrough are actually taking up a bit too much of the market. They've got a good defence, but Pulis is a bit of a dinosaur, I think, at this level. I think they're going to draw a lot of games. They're a little bit negative, and I don't think they're going to win enough games to win the league.
OK. Is there anything at a big price? What price are you Birmingham, Emmett?
We are 20-1 Birmingham.
20-1 Birmingham. I put out on Twitter last night, I just pointed out how wide open it was, and there's a few people came back and were bigging up Birmingham. Gary Monk obviously doing a good job there, isn't he?
Birmingham were, sorry.
Go on, Emmett.
Spurs were actually 66-1 Birmingham.
66-1, okay, blimey. Excellent, that's a bit of a drastic cut.
They were actually playing well earlier in the season when they were getting a lot of draws and we were dominating a lot of games, and they're just starting to get the wins now.
So if you were taking a cut at one of these teams who aren't that far adrift and at a massive price, who would you look at?
I still wouldn't say them because they had their squad is really, really thin, and if they get a few injuries, because they had a transfer embargo for most of the summer, Birmingham, so I just think that the lack of squad depth could hurt them. And
Brentford, Emmett, have gone from kind of 5-6-1 dominating the market. They've dropped themselves right down to 15th position. They're out to all sorts of prices now. What price are they now?
Brentford are 20-1.
20-1.
It's interesting as well because at the start of the season, some of the prices they were going off in the match betting, you'd nearly had them rated as nearly the best team in the league, and just the recent results, and obviously Dean Smith leaving hasn't suited, but I think I wouldn't rule them out making a charge later in the year.
A fascinating division. We will keep a close eye on that. But in the meantime, after we come back from the break, we'll look at this weekend's Premier League games.
Introducing Paddy Power's Beat the Drop. We're giving every customer 30 days free entry and £1,000 up front. It's up to you to keep it. All you have to do is answer 10 questions correctly. Play now at beatthedrop.paddypower.com.
Welcome back. Let's look first at the 3 p.m. non-televised games. There are 5 of them. I will read out the Paddy Power prices and the lads will tell us who they fancy. We'll start off down at the Amex, 21-10 Brighton, 6-4 Wolves, 2-1 the draw. Dan Childs.
I'm going to take a chance on Brighton here at 21-10. I just thought Wolves' performances were starting to tail a little bit, even though they were winning games before they played Watford last week. The Watford game, they lost 2-0, and it was a fair result really. They were exposed by Watford on the counter attack. I think Brighton do the basics right. They've actually played 4 of the big 6 already this season, so to be middle of the table, just below, is pretty good going given the fixtures. So Brighton for me.
Joe.
I'm going to go for the draw. I like Brighton usually when they're at home, but I think Glenn Murray's out and that's a big blow for them. So Wolves have got plenty of talent, but they're not really seeing out games. So I'll go with the draw.
And Emmett.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if Wolves can make changes to their starting team after the loss last week. But possibly give Adama Traore a start. I wouldn't have any fancy in the match prices, so I'd take a chance on Willy Bowley to score first at 35-1. He's a huge threat from set pieces, and he could easily have scored more than his 1 goal this year.
He is absolutely enormous. He's one of the biggest professional footballers I've ever seen. Incredible. Fulham 17-10, Bournemouth 7-5, 13-5 to draw. Dan, tricky old test this one.
Yeah, and I think the match prices are about right. I do think Fulham will improve eventually, but confidence is obviously a big issue at the moment.
That was a shocking performance last week, wasn't it? My goodness,
I was saying before that against Arsenal you could excuse them because of the forwards Arsenal got, and then you ship 4 at Cardiff. So Tim Ream at the back, he just looks so paceless at the moment, turning. Well, Chambers as well. They're struggling defensively, pace-wise. So that's why I'm going to say Callum Wilson to score the first goal. He's a quick player for Bournemouth, 5-1.
And Joe,
I might take a chance on Fulham here at the prices. To be honest with you, Bournemouth are playing well, but they lost 4-0 away at Burnley just before the international break. They then beat Watford 4-0, but that red card to Kabasele when it was 1-0 made a lot of difference to that game. So maybe just a chance on Fulham, but I wouldn't be confident.
Emmett.
Yeah, I'd take a chance on Bournemouth to win if both teams to score. As the lads mentioned, Ream and Chambers are horrendous last week, and you just couldn't be confident to Fulham at the moment. No,
fair enough. Liverpool are the hottest favourites of the 3 p.m. brigade at 1-12. Cardiff 25s, 9-1 the draw. Dan.
Yeah, I've been struggling, looking at the match result prices, then looking at the first score. All the Liverpool usual suspects are too short, so I've ended up, raise a white flag. I've gone Liverpool 3-0 at 11-2.
Okay, Joe.
Well, I've mainly sort of did the same thing that Dan did and looked at everything and just thought maybe Liverpool won't batter Cardiff this week, and I just support Cardiff on the handicap +3, which goes against what Dan's just said, of course, but. They won last week and they only lost 1-0 at Wembley against Spurs, so maybe they're not as bad as everyone thought.
Okay, so they need to win or lose by 2 goals or fewer, or even draw or win for that bet to cop. Emmett, what's your fancy here?
Yeah, I'd be the same. I think Cardiff +3 is worth doing. Cardiff unexpected points are mid-table this year, and obviously they clicked last night. But up until the Red Star game, Liverpool's front three hadn't really, I don't think, clicked as much as you'd expect. I think Cardiff could possibly frustrate them here.
Sorry, Emmett, did you say that Cardiff's expected points, you got mid-table this year?
I think they're 12th in expected points, yeah.
Are they? Whose
Yeah.
expected points are they?
They did a couple of websites I looked at last night, but even recently, when they went to Spurs at Wembley, they only lost 1-0. I thought they played fairly well, and obviously they had an excellent result against Fulham last week.
Yeah, on XG, I think they are expected to be doing better
Really?
than they are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
an extrapolation of
I think
expected
so,
goals,
yeah,
is it?
yeah,
The
yeah,
expected
yeah.
points. Okay, interesting. Southampton evens, Newcastle 11-4, 11-5 the draw. Dan?
Yeah, I'm going to give Newcastle a chance here. I mean, both teams have had a tough start to the season, but Newcastle, you have to factor in, they have played 5 of the big 6. I mean, the game last week, I tipped Brighton and they won the game, but Newcastle were really dominated the game, were a bit unlucky, so I'm going to say Newcastle draw and I bet 7-4.
Joe?
I can't trust Southampton. They haven't scored in 4 Premier League games, so I'll go for the draw though, because neither team's got many goals in them, have they? So.
And Emmett?
Yeah, same. I think I like the draw here. I can see that both sides are hardly out of form. I can see this being a 0-0 or 1-1 type of game.
Do you think it could be the last game on Match of the Day, Emmett?
I think most likely, if you're doing betting on last game Match of the Day, I think that would be favourite.
That used to be a bet. I seem to remember people betting on first game Match of the Day. I would have done my money last week because I thought West Ham Tottenham was going to be a cracker, and they showed it at about 2:15 a.m. in the end of the so.
Can we bring that back? I enjoyed that market.
It was good, wasn't it? Yeah, bring it back, Emmett, okay?
Absolutely, I'll tell the lads.
Jolly good. And the final 3 p.m. game, Watford 8-11, Huddersfield 4-1, 5-2, the draw. Dan?
Yeah, I think Watford 8-11 are very solid favourites here. I don't think they ever dipped as much as everybody seemed to think. The 4-0 Bournemouth game was heavily influenced by the red card, and the penalty all in one go. Got goals in the team: Delafeu, Deeney, Gray, Pereira, lots of goals. Huddersfield playing all right, but such a lack of a goal threat. So Watford for me.
Joe?
Yeah, exactly the same feelings really. Watford good at home, and Troy Deeney coming back into the team potentially as well.
Emmett?
Yeah, I would, in the match price, I'd lean Watford. But I think Roberto Pereira 13-5 anytime is worth doing. I think he's been Watford's biggest goal threat this year, and I think 13-5 represents reasonable value.
Okay, thanks, chaps. If you want your fix of live Premier League football, you have to wait till 5:30 this weekend. That's on Saturday, and it's Leicester versus West Ham. What's the latest from Paddy Power?
We've got a Leicester 11-10, draw 23-10, and West Ham 13-5.
Joe, we'll start with you. It's an interesting game, this, isn't it? I was massively impressed with Leicester in the first half against Arsenal. I thought they were pinging it around like Barcelona. They were so slick and so dangerous and inventive. And then obviously they conceded just before the break, and then the second half was a different game. But there is still obviously the makings of a really, really good, dangerous team there. And West Ham have had an up and down year. They've shown, really great form in snatches and not so good at other times. So how do you think this one will pan out?
Yeah, I like Leicester here. They're a team who have always been good at home over the last few seasons. And West Ham are obviously, they've picked up a bit, having started the season badly. But Yarmolenko's out now, and I think they've scored 4 goals in their last 5 games, and he's been directly involved in 3 of them, 2 goals and an assist. Leicester were great in the first half, weren't they? And Arsenal really turned it on in that second half, and they couldn't live with them. But West Ham haven't got it in them to do that. So I definitely think you can just support Leicester in the match betting here. I'd be quite happy to maybe take Leicester sort of -1 on the Asian handicap as well.
Get you. Leicester for Joe, who for Emmett?
I go over 2.5 goals here. Over 2.5 is clicked in 7 of Leicester's first 9 league games. And even though they were impressive against Arsenal, they had a very, very aggressive approach, kind of going man-to-man with their pressing. I think that might leave them vulnerable. Chicharito might come into the West Ham team with the Yarmolenko's injury, and I can see there being goals in this.
Yeah, and they're also the BTTS kings, aren't they, Emmett, Leicester?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Joe, Dan, what do you make of this one?
I don't think there's a lot between these teams, actually. I know there's 5 points in the table. West Ham have played 5 of the big 6, so they've had a very tough start to the season. I think their balance has been a lot better since Declan Rice has gone into midfield, been playing a lot better, played well against Spurs in the game they lost 1-0. Won at Everton. I think the most recent away game, won 3-1, didn't they?
And looked very good, didn't they?
Looked very good in the win at Everton. Leicester, if you look at them for half an hour against Arsenal, great for half an hour, and then seem to fold after they went in front. So that's a bit of a worry for me. I'm going to go for the draw here at 23-10. Not a lot between the teams.
OK, we will look at Sunday's matches next.
Introducing Paddy Power's Beat the Drop. We're giving every customer 30 days free entry and £1,000 up front. It's up to you to keep it. All you have to do is answer 10 questions correctly. Play now at beatthedrop.paddypower.com.
Welcome back, Bruce Millington, Joe Champion, Dan Childs and Paddy Power's Emmet O'Keefe. Looking ahead to 3 Premier League games on Sunday and also El Clasico. So a really great football betting day on Sunday. We'll get the non-televised game out of the way first. It kicks off at 1:30 at Turf Moor. It's Burnley versus Chelsea. How do Paddy Power bet, Emmet?
It's Burnley at 9-1, the draw at 7-2, and Chelsea at 3-10.
We'll stick with you. You can go first. What's going to happen here, Emmet?
I think Chelsea are probably short enough here. I know Burnley have awful statistics, but West Ham and Newcastle are able to frustrate Chelsea at home for long periods, and I think Burnley may be able to do that as well. So I'd have a tentative vote for Burnley +2 here.
Dan?
Yeah, I'm on a similar sort of track. I'm going to go for draw half-time, Chelsea full-time. I think they might, resist for half the game. It's not an easy ground to go to and play your flowing football, Turf Moor, and Burnley did resist quite well first half against City, conceded 1 goal in the first half. Previous 4 games, they only conceded 3 goals. So they're starting to get their defensive organisation from last season back a little bit. I do think Chelsea will be too strong in the end, though.
OK, and Joe?
Yeah, Chelsea should win the game, but you wouldn't be one of taking short prices about them. They've only conceded once away from home this season, so maybe Chelsea to win 2-0.
OK, also at 1:30, but this time under the glare of the Sky Sports cameras down at Selhurst, it's Crystal Palace versus Arsenal. What's the latest betting, Emmet?
It's Palace 3-1, the draw 11-4, Arsenal 4-5.
Sorry, 3-1 Palace. Not for me, Dan. For you?
No, not for me either, Bruce. I think Arsenal at a shade of odds on. It's a decent price. Palace second lowest scorers in the league with 5 goals. As we all know, Wilfried Zaha is a massive part of their team. You just feel that if Arsenal can at least nullify his threat to some extent, then they're going to go on and win the game. At the start of their winning run, Arsenal, they were a little bit fortunate, getting a few lucky wins, narrowly won at Cardiff, narrowly won at Newcastle, but more recently, brilliant at Fulham with a 5-1 win. They were superb, I thought, in the second half against Leicester with a 3-1 win. They're playing Ozil with lots of confidence. Aubameyang, Lacazette starting to play well. Arsenal all day for me.
And one thing, the point I made in my column today, Dan, they've got that lethal counter-attacking back, haven't they? They'd lost that a little bit under Wenger, hadn't they? But that third goal was an absolute thing of beauty, wasn't it?
That's right. And if they get in front, if they score first, like you're saying, Palace have to come on to them, then you really worry about Palace keeping them out.
I certainly do. Joe?
Yeah, that third goal wasn't dissimilar to the one they scored against Fulham either, the Ramsey goal. I'm with Arsenal all the way here. 10 wins in a row. They've got to go to Lisbon tonight for the Europa League, but I think they're equipped to cope with that. We talked about the big names coming to the fore for Arsenal, but Emery's getting the best out of the likes of Iwobi, Bellerin.
He has got Iwobi playing well, hasn't he? Because I could never see the fuss, but now he looks like he's actually putting a bit of end product to the neat play he produces. Yeah,
some incredible skill on Monday night as well. Palace, I think they're heavily reliant on Zaha, and if he doesn't come to if he's not in the game, then I think they will struggle.
So do I. So the lads both think Arsenal will win. Do you, Emmet?
I would. I'd be slightly worried about the centre half partnership of Holding and Mustafi away from home, but even still, even though their expected goal statistics are poor, I still think Arsenal are a really team in improvement, and they look to be definitely a more united team than last year. The angle I would look at here would be total Arsenal second half goals over 1.5 at 9-4. It's clicked in Arsenal's last 7 games, and I don't think it's completely random, as the pace of their attackers is suited by the game opening up, and they've very strong bench options, even if Aubameyang were to start, with the likes of Ramsey, Mkhitaryan, Welbeck, and possibly Iwobi as well.
OK, that's all very gloomy for us Palace fans, but I can absolutely see where you're coming from, lads. We just don't carry a goal threat apart from Zaha. It's dreadful. We do need to get to January and get a forward. The 4 p.m. game is a cracker. It's Man United versus Everton. Emmet, what's the latest betting?
It's Man United 4-6, the draw 11-4, and Everton 4-1.
It's an interesting test, this, Joe, isn't it? Which way are you leaning?
Yeah, I wouldn't be wanting to back United at the prices. I mean, they've one win in 7 and they're not playing like a team who's going to start winning anytime soon, really. And Everton are a tough team to come up against. I think they'll have a go at United as well. I mean, Silver's teams don't tend to sit back, so we've got, he's got Richarlison, Walcott, those types of players that they're going to get at United defence.
Those types of players, Richarlison's a zillion times better than Walcott.
Well, yeah, but they have a go at defenders, don't they? He is a bit
How does he still play in the Premier League, Walcott? It's just incredible. I saw him last week against Palace. He's just a complete non-entity on the pitch.
Someone pointed out the other day that he's a player that tends to play well when there's a move or a contract deal in the balance. He's one of those. But
absolute mystery.
But yeah, they'll get at United anyway. And this is a United team that's conceded. I think they've conceded 5 in 5 of their 7 games, last 7 games.
What's the bet then, Joe?
I'll just go for both teams to score. I think United still have enough quality to get a goal, obviously, but it could be quite a high-scoring one.
Okay, Dan.
Yeah, I'm going to go Everton or draw double chance at 11-10. It's more of an anti-United bet than a pro-Everton bet. I actually backed Everton against Palace, and I thought I was lucky to get the win.
There was nothing in it until those goals
wasn't. No, Palace actually played pretty well in that game, and Everton were struggling for ideas until brought the 2 centre forwards on late on. But I still think they may even be better suited, Everton, to playing away from home on the counter attack. You got, as Joe's mentioned, Richarlison's pace is a big asset for them. When they played away to Arsenal, although they lost, he was getting in behind Arsenal all the time, Richarlison, and he's going to be a big threat if United come out, and United have got to come out, try and win the game after the midweek loss. And I just think United are low on confidence at the moment. To be backing them at 4-6, you look at the 2 squads. I'm not sure Everton are that much worse than United. I think they have got a bit of a better midfield balance with Gomez now coming to the side. Everton, he did get them playing a little bit, and he'll get better with games. So,
they've got more options now as well. The bench is a bit deeper than it was, isn't it? With
absolutely.
Those injuries coming back.
Sigurdsson's a bit of class as well. He's, if he gets an opportunity, he'll pop up with a goal as well. So Everton or draw double chance for me.
What are you going to do, Emmett? Keep the faith in your boys?
Definitely not.
No.
But I think the match prices are close to fair. So I'd have a couple of speculative selections. Would be if you can get Luke Shaw in the assist markets at 10-3 or better. I'd go look at that. He's pretty nearly United's biggest attacking threat this year. And if Yerry Mina were to start, 33-1, him to score first, I think is good value. He was a huge threat in the World Cup, and again, like Willy Bowley I mentioned earlier, he's absolutely enormous.
Okay, and at 3:15 then, are we in the Bernabeu or Camp Nou? We're in the Camp Nou for Barcelona versus Real Madrid. El Clasico, 10-11 Barca, 13-5 the draw, 5-2 Real Madrid. No Messi, Dan? Does that mean no hope for Barca?
No, I still think that it's already massively influencing the price. I think we'll talk to Emmett in a minute, but I would imagine Barca would be nearer something like 4-6 if Messi, if he was playing. So I think the drift is kind of fair enough about the right sort of reflection, but I would have fancied him at 4-6 if he was in the side. So they beat Inter 2-0 comfortably without Messi. So again, gaining a little bit of confidence playing without him. The depth is pretty good. You've got I noticed they had Dembele and Malcolm were on the bench, even though Messi was unavailable in the week. So they've still got quality attackers in depth. And Real Madrid, as has been mentioned earlier, I'm not sure about them this season. I've had a few injury problems with Isco's obviously missed a chunk of games, and I just think they're going to struggle to cope here. Barcelona for me.
Who do you like, Emmett?
I'd agree with Dan. I think it has to be Barcelona here.
What price would you be if Messi was playing?
I'd say 4-6, 4-6 out to 11. Again, obviously Real struggled with Pilsen during the week, and Barca actually 2-0 flattered Inter, I would say. I think that was like more of a 3 or 4-0 type of game. I was incredibly impressed with Artur in midfield. He looks a great replacement for Iniesta, and he's really dictated the game from the middle of the field. I could have thought Luis Suarez as well was potentially seriously on the wane. I thought he had a very poor World Cup, but again, he looked excellent last night, and I can't have any confidence in Real Madrid. So I think Barca are a solid bet here, 10-11.
And Joe?
Yeah, I'd agree with everything Emmett's just said, really. Artur's an absolute superb midfielder. I think he's more of a Xavi replacement than an Iniesta one, really. But they've got quality in abundance even without Messi. And this Real team's in disarray at the back. So Suarez, Coutinho, guys like that, they're going to take advantage against a Real Madrid team who I really want to oppose wherever possible.
3 very strong votes for Barcelona. Let's look at the Monday night game, 8 p.m. Spurs versus Man City at Wembley. What a cracker this is. Absolutely great. Really looking forward to this one. What's the latest betting from Paddy Power?
It's Tottenham at 10-3, the draw at 3-1, and Man City at 4-6.
4-6. Joe, is that Man City price big enough to tempt you, or are you going to look elsewhere?
I think it is big enough to tempt me, yeah. I think that because other teams in the Premier League have probably improved, like Liverpool and Chelsea this season, everyone's sort of leaning towards thinking City aren't going to be as good as they were. But, you know, they're unbeaten and they haven't done a lot wrong at all. So this is a team that last season they absolutely destroyed Spurs both times they played them. So Spurs have not really changed anything. They're still a good side, but, you know, as evidenced in recent weeks, they're not seeing games out. You know, Lloris went charging out last night in bizarre piece of defending with 2 covering defenders to help him out. They don't seem to be playing even as well as they were last year, possibly because other teams have improved. So I will definitely be siding with City. I just think they're cut above Spurs. And Spurs haven't always played well against the best teams in the league. They beat Man United at Old Trafford, but that form looks pretty bad anyway. So, yeah, and City should have beat Liverpool really. If they'd have scored that penalty, they would have done. I still think they're the best team in the league, and I think they'll win the game. City
for Joe. Who for you, Dan?
Yeah, it pains me to say it as a Spurs supporter, but I agree with pretty much everything Joe said there. I think Spurs have played. I mean, their points take is actually the highest at this stage in the Premier League. So I mean, you have to mention that, and if they win the game, they actually go above City, which is seems a bit strange, but. No, I just think they've been nicking a lot of games that you'd expect them to win. You look at the 2 big teams they played at home this season. They played at home to Barcelona, were outplayed really, lost 4-2. The Liverpool game lost 2-1, but that flattered Spurs so much as well. I mean, it could have been 5 or 6 there. And City, I would argue, are probably a better team than both those 2 sides. Got De Bruyne back now as well, so they're totally at full strength. Wembley, as Joe said, suits City's style of play. Hammered Spurs 3-1 there last season. Should have been more.
Don't say it's a big pitch, because we know it's not.
Yeah, so I won't mention it being it's a big arena, but I still think, even though the league's tight, I think City are the best team in the league by far. They'll still win the league by a comfortable margin, and they're going to win this game.
Interesting. Emmett, what's your view?
I think it's worth pointing out that I expect the Wembley pitch to be in pretty poor state, given that there's going to be an NFL game on the Sunday. And I don't think that'll suit City's passing game especially.
There's another game there Sunday, is there?
There is another game, yeah.
Blimey.
Eagles, Jaguars, I believe. But I thought Tottenham were excellent against PSV. Like, they completely outshot them, and they were just undone by a terrible mistake from Lloris. I think they'll have the point to prove in this game, and I would side with them at the double chance markets at evens as well. Also, if you can get anything close to 2-1 on Vincent Kompany to be booked if he starts, I think that represents good value. He looks a step slow this year, as his tackle against Burnley last week indicated, where he should have been sent off. He's 18 yellows in his last 43 league games.
That was a terrible tackle, that, wasn't it?
Yeah, horrendous.
Really bad. OK then, lads, thank you very much. Let's, before we give our naps away, see if there's anything further down the leagues that you fancy. Dan, got anything for us?
Yeah, I like the look of Northampton at home to Oldham in League 2. Won 5-0 away to Macclesfield in the week. They've improved a lot since Keith Curle's come in as manager. Oldham are missing their top scorer, Sam Surridge, so Northampton's a good bet for me.
Joe?
Nothing particularly.
Nothing? Anything for you, Emmett? Or over in Europe?
No, nothing for me.
Save it for the naps. Coming in, Steve.
This will not be beaten.
I'm going to go first. Watford will not be beaten at home to Huddersfield. I think 8-11 is perfectly acceptable. Joe?
I'll go to Spain for Levante at 11-10 against Leganés. Leganés are a poor side away from home. They've picked up 1 point this season. Last season they only picked up 12. Levante beat Real Madrid last week. That's not their only good result. They've won 3 in a row. They also beat a good Real Betis team at the start of the season. And they've done really well since Paco Lopez took charge in March. So
okay.
Levante.
Jolly good. Dan?
I think Plymouth at 11-4 are a big price to win away to Scunthorpe in League 1. They're only second from bottom, Plymouth. They come off the bottom of the table by beating Gillingham 3-1 at home in the week. But the performances are improving. Freddie Ladapo, the striker, has got 4 goals.
He's banging him in, is he?
4 goals in his last 2 games. So
he's
full of confidence. And the Scunthorpe side, 4 defeats in a row at the moment, shipping goals and big issues in midfield with no Funzi Ojo and no Matt Lund.
I've been worrying about Funzi Ojo and Matt Lund as well. Good knowledge. Emmett, who's your nap?
It would be Cambridge to beat Macclesfield. It's a bet against Macclesfield, really, who've taken 1 point from their 7 away games, and Cambridge have shown some improvement lately, drawing to Lincoln at home and beating Swindon away. That's
a relegation 6-pointer, isn't it? Or have Cambridge pulled themselves clear of danger?
They're still close to the bottom 3.
Lovely stuff. Well done, lads. Thank you very much. Don't forget, if you do enjoy these shows, please rate, review and subscribe on SoundCloud, YouTube or wherever else you are listening. I'm back tomorrow with the lads looking ahead to the weekend racing. We've got a weekend review podcast with Maddie and the gang on Monday. We've got golf with Steve and Ian on Wednesday. And if you can't join us for any of them, we'd love you to rejoin us next Thursday for another Racing Post Weekend Football Postcast.
Introducing Paddy Power's Beat the Drop. We're giving every customer 30 days free entry and £1,000 up front. It's up to you to keep it. All you have to do is answer 10 questions correctly. Play now at beatthedrop.paddypower.com.